This is a key to the worksheet on long division. And on this worksheet, there are 4 problems. And so let's go ahead and do the first one. And so the first one, you have this polynomial, x to the fourth plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. And so when using long division, keep in mind that you're going to write it in this form. So it'll look like this. And your divisor, which goes here, is going to be your denominator. So that's x minus 2. And your dividend will be the numerator. Now, notice that in the dividend, in the numerator, the x cubed term is missing. So you have to put the missing term here. And it's already in descending order, so make sure it's in descending order. And if there's any missing terms, that you write it as a 0 term. So I'm going to have x to the fourth plus 0x cubed. All right, now one of the reasons for putting that 0 here is for alignment purposes. And then negative 4x, plus 3x squared minus 4x, and then minus 2. Okay, so descending order, there was a missing term, and I indicated it as a 0 term. Okay, so when doing long division, remember it's first into first. So you're saying x to the fourth divided by x. So you're taking this term in the first term in the dividend, dividing it by the first term of the divisor. And so when you reduce this, x to the fourth divided by x gives you x cubed. Kind of makes sense because you're asking yourself, x times what will give you x to the fourth? And so it will be x cubed. So x times x cubed is x to the fourth. Now this x cubed that you see here, make sure you put it above the x cubed column. It makes it easier for alignment purposes if you do that. Okay, and then you're going to multiply. So it's always going to be divide, multiply. So when you go from any term that's in this quotient, this is called the quotient up here, any term that's in the quotient, you're going to multiply by every term of the divisor. So x cubed times x is x to the fourth. If you're doing this correctly, for the most part, if you're doing this correctly, this first term here, when you multiply, that first term you get better be the same thing as that first term, or that term right above it. X to the fourth, x to the fourth. X cubed times a negative 2 is a negative 2x cubed. So that goes here. All right. And then the next step is you're going to subtract. Now, what you may want to do, and that's up to you, is to rewrite this without the parentheses. So just keep in mind what you're doing. So you're subtracting. So you're saying x to the fourth minus x to the fourth. Then you're saying 0x cubed minus a negative 2x cubed. For some students, it may be easier to get rid of the parentheses and then just think of adding these terms. So for example, what I've written here, now remember you must always subtract, and you're subtracting all these terms, so that's why I have that in parentheses. The opposite of x to the fourth is a negative x to the fourth. The opposite of a negative 2x cubed is a positive 2x cubed. Okay? And then what you're going to do next is you're going to kind of take this out of your mind now, and then you're just going to add these two terms. X to the fourth minus x to the fourth. So remember, when I subtracted, when I subtracted x minus x to the fourth and then 0x cubed minus a negative x cubed, remember subtraction is the same thing as adding the opposite. So that's what you see here. These are opposite of these terms that's inside the parentheses. Negative x to the fourth is the opposite of x to the fourth. Positive 2x cubed is the opposite of negative 2x cubed. Okay? All right, and then all you do now is just add those. So x to the fourth and a negative x to the fourth is 0. You're going to notice as you go through the process that when you do that repetition, that first terms here will always add up to be 0. 0x cubed, just cover this part up. So 0x cubed and 2x cubed is 2x cubed. And then bring on the next term, plus 3x squared. And you can bring down every term if you want to, but it's simpler just to bring down one term at a time. Okay, so, and then you do the process all over again. First into first. So you're saying 2x cubed divided by x. So when I reduce this, when I simplify this, that's going to be 2x squared. So I'm going to take this 2x squared, I'm going to put it above the x squared term here. So plus 2x squared. And then just like you did with x cubed, you're going to do the same thing with 2x squared. You're going to multiply by the divisor. 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. Makes sense that this has to be the same, right? Because of this right here. X times 2x squared is 2x cubed. So 2x cubed. 2x squared times a negative 2 is a negative 4x squared. And then you do the same thing. You subtract this now. And again, if you need to, you may want to rewrite what this right here means. So the opposite of 2x cubed is a negative 2x cubed. The opposite of a negative 4x squared is a positive 4x squared. And then you're going to add. So these have to always be opposites, just like you saw here. So when you add those up, 2x cubed and a negative 2x cubed, that's going to be 0. And then over here, 3x squared and a positive 4x squared is 7x squared. And bring down the next term, minus 4x. Then you do the process all over again. Now just remember that you're going to continue to the process. So in other words, you're going to continue this repetition as long as, now look, remember the degree? I'm using the word degree here. The degree, and you learned this in a previous lesson, the degree of this polynomial right here, this remainder, is 2. The degree of the divisor is 1. So you continue the division, if the degree of the remainder is, and I'm going to use an inequality symbol, so if the degree of the remainder is greater than or equal to the degree of the divisor. Okay, and so if you notice this degree, the remainder at this point, now that's not the remainder of the final answer. I'm using the word remainder because when I did this into this, I got this. And so what I have at this point is that this degree here of this polynomial that you see is 2. So 2 is greater than or equal to 1. You stop if the degree is less. Okay? Okay, so then we continue on. So first into first. So 7x squared divided by x. When I reduce that, that's going to give me 7x. So that goes here, plus 7x. And then I multiply. 7x times x is 7x squared. These have to be the same. 7x times a negative 2 is a negative 14x. And then you subtract, just like you did at each of these little parts right here. And if you want to, go ahead and rewrite this parentheses. So the opposite of negative 7x squared is a, the opposite of a positive 7x squared is a negative 7x squared. The opposite of a negative 14x is a positive 14x. All right, and then we're going to add those. So 7x squared and a negative 7x squared is 0. So notice that every little repetition, you get these to be zeros. Negative 4x and a positive 14x is 10x. and then you bring down the next term. And notice the degree here is 1. The degree here is 1, so I continue. So I'm saying 10x divided by x gives me 10. So I'm going to say plus 10. And then you multiply. 10 times x is 10x. 10 times a negative 2 is 10 times a negative 2 is a negative 20. And then you subtract. And again, if you need to, go ahead and rewrite this. So the opposite of 10x is a negative 10x. The opposite of a negative 20 is a positive 20. And when you add those, 10x and negative 10x is 0. A negative 2 and a positive 20 is 18. And so the remainder is 18. Now notice the degree of a constant is 0. Since this degree is less than the degree here, you stop. You're done. You cannot do any division any further. So you can't do these processes anymore. So the answer, the way you're going to write your answer now is this. You're going to say the answer will equal, well, the answer will be the quotient, which is this. So the quotient, x cubed plus 2x squared plus 7x plus 10 plus the remainder, so 18, divided by the divisor, which is x minus 2. All right, so that's number 1. All right, number 2. So number 2, we have x cubed minus 2x squared plus 7x plus 1 divided by 2x plus 1. Now this time it's written horizontally, so some students, when it's written like this, they have a little confusion as to which one's the divisor, which one's the dividend. You may want to rewrite it as a fraction first to help you. It's up to you. You don't have to do that. But basically, as a fraction, you're looking at 8x cubed minus 2x squared plus 7x plus 1. And notice it's already in descending order, and there's no missing terms to deal with. And then 2x plus 1. So now you know that the denominator is your divisor, and the numerator is your dividend. 8x cubed minus 2x squared plus 7x plus 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and start dividing. So first into first. So 8x cubed divided by 2x. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. X cubed divided by x is x squared. So 4x squared. So we put that over the x squared column, 4x squared. And then we multiply. 4x squared times 2x is 8x cubed. So these have to be the same so that when you subtract, they cancel out. 4x squared times 1 is 4x squared. And then we're going to subtract. Now remember, you may want to rewrite this. The opposite of 8x cubed is a negative 8x cubed. The opposite of a positive 4x squared is a negative 4x squared. And so therefore, when you add those, 8x cubed and negative 8x cubed is 0. A negative 2x squared and a negative 4x squared is a negative 6x squared. And bring down the next term, plus 7x. And then we do the process all over again. First into first. So negative 6x squared divided by 2x is equal to, when I simplify or reduce, is equal to negative 3x. So I'm going to go in the x column. So minus 3x. And then we multiply. Negative 3x times 2, negative 6x squared. So again, these have to be the same. Negative 3x times 1 is a negative 3x. And then we're going to subtract. Just like this. Make sure you put the parentheses there because you're subtracting all of these terms here. And when I do that, the opposite of negative 6x squared is 6x squared. The opposite of a negative 3x is a positive 3x. And then we're going to add. And so notice that negative 6x squared and 6x squared is 0. That's what you wanted. So notice each repetition, the first terms will always cancel out. Will always add up to be 0. 7x and 3x is 10x. And then you bring down the next term. Now remember, you keep on going because the degree here is 1. The degree here is 1. They're the same. You stop when the degree is less than the degree of the divisor, and the degree of the divisor is 1. X to the first. Okay, so first divided by first. So 10x divided by 2x is just 5. So we put the 5 here, plus 5. And then you multiply. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times 1 is 5. And then you subtract. So the opposite of 10x is negative 10x. The opposite of a positive 5 is a negative 5. And then you add. 10x and negative 10x is 0. 1 and a negative 5 is a negative 4. And notice this constant, the degree of a constant is 0. The degree of a constant is 0. 0 is less than the degree here, which is 1. So 0 is less than 1, so you stop. So the answer, you're going to say is the quotient, which is this up here. That's your quotient. So 4x squared minus 3x plus 5 plus the remainder, which is, you're going to say plus negative 4, divided by 2x, the divisor, which is 2x plus 1. Now you could also, if you want to, since the remainder is a constant, there's no variable involved, you could also say this. You could say 4x squared minus 3x plus 5 minus 4 divided by 2x plus 1. So subtracting 4 is the same thing as adding a negative 4. All right, so just make sure you understand that. So either one of those is an answer. Okay, that's number 2. Okay, number 3, we have this. All right, so again, if it's written horizontally, it confuses you, then write it as a fraction. So 6x squared minus 7x minus 5 divided by 3x minus 5. And there are no missing terms, and it's already in descending order. So your divisor is your denominator. Your dividend is your numerator. All right, so first divided by first. So 6x squared divided by 3x. When I reduce that, 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. So that's 2x. And then we multiply. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. 2x times a negative 5 is a negative 10x. And then we're going to subtract. And so the opposite of 6x squared is a negative 6x squared. The opposite of a negative 10x is a positive 10x. And now we're going to add. 6x squared and negative 6x squared is 0. A negative 7x and a positive 10x, I need to cover this part up, you do that, is going to be 3x. And we're written on the next term. And then you do the division all over again because the degree here is 1, so you continue. So first divided by first. So 3x divided by 3x is 1. So that's going to be plus 1 right here. 1 times 3x is 3x. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And now you're going to subtract. Now what you'll notice is you don't have to rewrite it like this anymore because you notice that 3x minus 5 minus itself is 0, right? But if you need to, go ahead and rewrite it like we did here. The opposite of 3x is a negative 3x, and the opposite of a negative 5 is a positive 5. And so when I add those, I want you to notice 3x and negative 3x is 0. Negative 5 and a positive 5 is also 0, right? But go ahead and put 0 here because you're done. So the degree of a constant is 0, and that's less than the degree here, which is 1. So therefore, the remainder is 0. So you have the answer. Now here's how you can write this, is 2x plus 1 plus the remainder divided by the divisor. But I want you to notice that 0 divided by the divisor is 0. So you can just say, well, that's just going to be 2x plus 1, which is a quotient. Since the remainder is 0, I can just say 2x plus 1. But it did say, write the answer as a quotient plus the remainder divided by the divisor. So based on the directions, this would be what you would write, based on the directions. All right. Okay, and then number 4. So the last problem is number 4. So we have this in number 4. Okay, so if you notice, it's in descending order, but there is a missing term. The x term's missing, so keep that in mind. So your divisor is 2x minus 4. Your dividend is negative 2x cubed minus 10x squared. And then you're gonna put in the missing term, so 0x, and then plus 56. All right, so let's do the division. Negative 2x cubed divided by 2x is a negative x squared. And so that's we're going to put the the negative x squared above the x squared term here. So negative x squared. Then we multiply. Negative x squared times 2x is a negative 2x cubed. Negative 2x squared times 4, a negative 4 is a positive 4x squared. And then you subtract, just like this. Put that in parentheses. Now let's go ahead and rewrite this. And the opposite of a negative 2x cubed is a positive 2x cubed. The opposite of a positive 4x squared is a negative 4x squared. And then we're going to add those. And so when I add those, negative 2x squared and negative 2x cubed, and a positive 2x cubed is 0. A negative 10x squared and a negative 4x squared is a negative 14x squared. Right on the next term, plus 0x. Then you do division all over again. Negative 14x squared divided by 2x. So that's going to give you a negative 7x. So I'm going to go here, minus 7x. And then you multiply again. Negative 7x times each term of the divisor. So negative 7x times 2x, negative 14x squared. So these have to be the same. Negative 7x times a negative 4 is a positive 28x. All right, and then we're going to subtract. And I'm going to just go ahead and rewrite this. So the opposite of negative 14x squared is a positive 14x squared. The opposite of a positive 28x is a negative 28x. And then therefore when I add those, so remember subtracting means the same thing as adding the opposite. All right, so when I add those, negative 14x squared and 14x squared is 0. 0x and a negative 28x is a negative 28x. And then we bring down the next term. And remember, you continue because the degree here is 1. The degree here is 1. They're the same. You stop when the degree here is less than the degree of the divisor. Okay, so first divided by first. So negative 28x divided by 2x. And so when I divide that, that's going to be a negative 14. So that goes here, minus 14. And so now you're going to multiply. Negative 14 times 2x is a negative 28x. Negative 14 times a negative 4. So remember, negative times a negative is a positive. And so negative 14 times negative 4, those will be a positive 56. And then you're going to subtract. I want you to know, just like the previous problem, you have negative 28x plus 56 minus subtracting itself, right? So that's going to be 0, so keep that in mind. But let's go through the process. The opposite of negative 28x is a positive 28x. The opposite of a positive 56 is a negative 56. And so now notice that when I add those, negative 28x and positive 28x is 0. Positive 56 and negative 56 is 0. So these cancel out, but you got to put a number there. So you got to put 0. Just like the previous problem, since the remainder is 0, first of all, notice that the degree of a constant is 0, so you're done. You don't do this process again. But your answer, now remember the direction says write it as a quotient plus the remainder divided by the divisor. So the quotient is this polynomial up here. So negative x squared minus 7x minus 14 plus the remainder divided by the divisor, which is 2x minus 4. All right, now according to the directions, this is what you would write. But on a multiple choice test or My Math Lab, if this were a multiple choice item, they could have just the quotient as the answer since the remainder is 0. So just keep that in mind. So this could be what you would see. But based on the directions, since it did say write it as quotient plus the remainder divided by the divisor, you would write this. So based on directions. All right, but since the remainder is 0, 0 divided by 0 divided by 2x minus 4 is 0, 0 plus the quotient is just the quotient. Okay? All right, so that was the key to this worksheet on dividing polynomials using long division.